Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Warhammer Weekly. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer. I am your host, Vince Venturella, coming to you again from a secret location hidden amongst the country, out and about. I'm on the road this week, and as such, we have changed our environs. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Corgus Cole, the Bloodstoker of Corn. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, friends.
So, you'll also notice we have no third person. We were to have somebody join us this week, but real life got in the way, so that is a shame and unfortunate. But that is okay. We will have them back, I'm sure. So it's just going to be the two of us tonight, here to entertain all of you. So get ready for the entertainment to begin, as it certainly will. As usual, we'll kick it off with some news and rumors. So, Tom, why don't you, man? There's a lot on the plate here. So start us off. Where would you like to begin?
Yeah. So this next week of releases, we're staring down a re-release of the Sylvaneth Forest Spirit Warhost, which also, interestingly enough, includes the is it Duthru? Durthu is back as wait for it, the Spirit of Durthu. Yeah, sure. There you go. And so re-release of those, we have the Dragon Fate Dais coming out, which is a fantastic, nice piece of terrain, as well as the Numinous Oculum. And again, both pieces of terrain just look fantastic. The Numinous Oculum is going to have to be a nice piece of plastic for the price they're asking. I think it's like it retails at 70 USD. So yeah, it'll be interesting. So I'm waiting to see those in their full splendor and glory.
Now, do we know if the two of those are modular in any way? Like, can they connect to anything else that's been released?
They haven't said directly, but in the one White Dwarf, they had mentioned that like the terrain had been designed in such a way as to be compatible with one another. So we'll see if it is, connectable to these other pieces of terrain coming.
Sure, because obviously the Ophidian Archway, was
Yep.
if you bought 4 Ophidian Archways, you could build yourself a little Ophidian Archway castle or something,
Yeah. An intersection of 4 archways.
Castle.
Say what?
I said, do you think they're just going to sneak out a castle over time? Like they just keep getting this little pieces, and then all of a sudden we realize they've accidentally released an entire castle?
Maybe. I would say that like if you look at the display cases for Age of Sigmar from Forge World, there's clearly terrain on the horizon that we have not seen that is compatible. Like I think what we'll probably see is some like larger pack, like probably $100 set, which is a bunch of like this is all speculation, by the way. I know no actual facts here. Of pieces, $100 set, kind of much like the old castle, but it'll be compatible with all the rest of these terrain pieces that kind of plug and play, put things together, and build your own fortress. So we'll see, though.
So we got those 2 pieces of terrain. I agree, they're cool. I actually like the dais better. The Oculum or whatever it is, the thing that looks like the top of the Hurricanum, like a big version of that. It's not that thing doesn't look cool. I think it looks cooler, but I think it's less useful. It seemed like there was less space. Like the thing about the dais is that it actually had like the stairs, a place for figs to stand. Like in the picture, it's there. That's very eminently usable on the battlefield in Age of Sigmar. You can get a dude up top of that and, and have and hold that position. And like that vertical space you got to pay to get up could make it actually challenging to get up there and move them from that.
Keeping a unit on it within 1 inch of each other could be interesting.
You got just guys hanging off the side.
Yeah, especially if they're all trying to get the cover bonus by actually everybody being on the terrain piece as the rules require.
Sure. Oh, I feel like you're calling ahead to our feature segment later on, Tom.
It could be interesting. That's all I'm saying.
Setting up a callback. So what else have we got? We've got this big Warhost. I love, by the way, the re-release of the Sylvaneth Warhost. The old Guardians of the Deepwood set. Didn't work the first time, just sat on the shelf, but this time. So here's my question to you, Tom. Was the inclusion of the Sylvaneth in the initial book, in the Age of Sigmar book, because it's really kind of out of nowhere. I mean, it's fine, Nurgle's attacking the life forces, whatever.
Yep.
Is the inclusion of them, but I'm not seeing a re-release of a bunch of Nurgle things. right? So they didn't release both sides of the conflict. Is the re-release of this a shrewd business move because they still had tons of Guardians of the Deepwood boxes just sitting in the warehouse doing nothing, and they're like, man, we got to move these tree people. They were garbage in 8th edition and no one bought them. Quick, pack them all up. Let's re-release it now. They're pretty good. We'll make them
the pragmatist in me says absolutely. More I wonder how much of it is they're trying to divorce the presence of the life creatures, the tree people, basically, from the wood elves. Because I think that what we're going to see is we're going to see a re-release of elves, and they would not have a home otherwise, I think is what we're going to see.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. So it's probably serving both masters simultaneously, right? Like, yes, they had a bunch of this extra stock, most likely, but at the same time, it also sets up the fluff for the new world because the elves will clearly be something new.
Yep.
They're the big question mark right now in the fluff. I mean, we know more about the lizardmen than we know about the elves.
Yeah, it's a really curious thing. Just a complete absence of any information about elves, other than they appear from nowhere, strike, and then re-vanish. Obviously. Yeah, well, no, but there's a similar description of the elves. I was pretty sure there was in the book, the White Dwarf, when it talked about the races.
My remembrance of the elves is just that they're missing, and other than the ones in Sigmar's little palace, they're gone. But hey, whatever. So I think we're tooling up for a massive elf release. I mean, I think that's what that says to me.
One can only hope, and one can also only hope that it's not going to be terrible.
Well, that would be true all the time. No, I'm hoping for terrible releases because I'm a bad person. No, Of course we want good releases. I think that's most of what's coming next week. We should also mention, obviously, this week you've got the Bow Warriors releasing. Everybody loves the Bow Warriors, right? Those weren't controversial in any way.
I could have dealt with it. I really could have been okay with it, even with the crappy shoulder pads not actually being able to look down the arrow to shoot.
Yes.
But when the bolter guns showed up, like the full-on 40K arm cannons, really?
Well, to be fair, it's only 1 in every 5 has that, so
Oh, okay.
Hey, I'm just trying to find a silver lining for you. So yes, those guys come out this week. So there you go. You can have your bowcaster, judicator guys, or whatever the judicators is what they're called.
Yeah, and we have coming up in the next couple weeks. Mm-hmm. We have let's see, where is it?
Corn releases. Yeah, we're swinging into corn. We're done with the good guys. Now it's time for the bad guys.
The new leaked images from the new White Dwarf suggest that blood flows, the devourer arrives, and a quest begins. So whatever that means.
Well,
that means probably corn.
We're trying to getting our corn models, quite obviously.
Yep. And probably the search for Slaanesh, I'm guessing. That's probably the quest that is embarked upon.
All right.
So the other things coming up, prosecutors with a bunch of different weapon options, spears and a two-handed hammer. Blood Reavers, we don't know when these are coming out, probably sometime in the next couple of weeks. Blood Reavers, they'll have the option of two-handed axes as well. Blood Warriors with different weapon options, including 2 axes and cool two-handed axes. And then a Slaughter Priest and Skull Grinder clan pack. So
is the Slaughter Priest going to be an actual wizard for the corn guys?
I have no idea. It sounds kind of priesty, doesn't it?
It does.
I'm guessing that we won't.
You could have some kind of bound spell.
Yeah, I'm guessing what we'll see is, because of the whole hatred of wizards thing, that on the assassination mission, you choose either a monster, a hero, a wizard, or a priest is one of the keywords. And so I think what we're going to start seeing is more priest keyworded people. And I think that that's the way they'll get around having spellcasters in corn. Because I think that they'll give them.
I'm not sad about. I've always thought there should be more presence of the divine, so more priests and that kind of stuff. So I brought up the protectors, the the new big double-handed weapon guys.
Yep.
What do you think about these guys? What's your feeling on them?
Honestly,
sure. No, lie to me.
They look like the exact same models as everything else we've seen up until this point, just with different things in their hands.
You don't think the halos and the
no,
they have different armor pieces here?
That all looks pretty close to what we've seen so far. Like, I'm just saying they're not swinging really wide from everything else we've seen.
Well, that's fair. What about this little weapon here? What do you think about this thing? That a little over the top for you?
It looks like that dude ripped that off of Sauron from the Lord of the Rings movie. He snuck that out the back and mounted it on a stick.
I was gonna say the same thing. That is completely Sauron's mace, right? Yeah, that's good. It's not just me. What else we got here? We've got the it's more of those guys. Is that all of them? Might be all of them. Oh no, here we go. Here's the other ones. Yeah, the axes. There you go.
Yep.
There they are with the axes. I think I rather like them with the axes. I think that might be my favorite version of them. The big double-handed swords are weird. Like the hilt is just too long.
Agreed. I really like the look of the axes. Yeah, they look a lot better that way. Let me just say that. They look very dwarven, by the way. I don't know what that heralds or harkens, but the make of the axes look very dwarven.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I don't hate these guys. I think the thing that I was most excited about was that the box does come with 5. I was worried since you got 3 in the starter box that this was going to end up being like a 3 for $50 pack. But it's not. It's a 5 for $58 or something US.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the way, for those that are taking note of the website that we're at right now, Lady Adia, who was we were using information from her Twitter in the last couple of weeks, got her Twitter shut down or asked to be closed by the powers that be, and so she has relocated at a new blogging site, and that is the resource that we are using right now for news and rumors,
amongst many others. But yes.
That is what he has up on the screen share.
Yes.
So yeah, they look. I mean, they look samey. Yeah, oh look, he's holding something different in his hand. I don't know.
Having painted many of these guys close up now, I notice a lot of differences, but at the same time, I completely get what you mean as far as yes. They're big dudes in armor, right? I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah,
I take your meaning.
I think about any of the other armies. I think about some of the worst defenders in the old armies, like High Elves, okay? They have the goofy cone helmets and all that. But, when I think about units of High Elves, almost all of them are distinct, even in their goofy-looking helmets and stuff like that. Where I just don't see that distinction here. Everything looks so similar between the aesthetically between the different units.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, these look about the same as all High Elves. I couldn't tell the difference between any of those pointy head knife ears. You all look the same to me. That's what I would say. All right. So, and I think this is yeah, there you go. And there's the ones we've already seen with the hammers. Yep. All right. So those are coming next week. Pretty exciting.
Another exciting thing that happened this last week, we had the release of the GW financial quarter report.
Yes.
And in addition to a bunch of the BS that was associated with that, as can all, the corporate, hey, look how awesome we're doing. There's some really interesting mentions in there when you kind of dig through it. One is that, the thing that we've kind of known about for a while, they're renaming all the GW stores. But also that Forge World, the rumor that Forge World was getting rolled into the main GW stores, it seems like this is indeed happening.
Yep.
And that potentially we'll be able to order through the GW site to have it delivered to local store, to your local store, which would be awesome.
All through one site. Yeah, all the same stuff. Yeah.
For VAT and shipping, that's just going to be fantastic. Because if anybody's ordered anything Forge World, you know that it's painful. It's a painful, painful experience unless you spend £250. $370 some probably.
Yeah.
So yeah. Another thing.
There was obviously another rumor very adjacent to that. We'll come back to that later. We're not forgetting. Don't worry. We're going to talk about it. There's a Forge World related thing, but we'll stay on the financial thing for right now because there was a couple other lines in there that I found really interesting. So if you go through that quarterly report or yearly report, I'm sorry, it wasn't quarterly, the yearly report. Look, we're not going to break down the financials. I'm not a CPA. I don't know, whatever. Everybody wants to armchair accountant this and say it's great or bad or flat or whatever. If you want that analysis, you can go out there and read any of people who are talking about it, who I'm sure know nothing of what they're talking about. What I'll stick to for my analysis is the direct things the president said that I found interesting. And the ones that I found interesting were when he was talking about creating shareholder value. And he said two things that really caught my attention. One, our product line we know it needs reassessing, not small changes. We need to look at our entire product line and reassess it from the top down. And if I'm in the world of, well, we already know that happened with Warhammer, right? Like clearly they're not going to change Age of Sigmar again. He makes mention earlier, like in line with that, he basically says, look, we already did this with Warhammer Fantasy, which means by process of elimination, there's only one other major product he's talking about that's going to get reassessed from the top down. And that is obviously 40K, right?
Some of Adia's sources came through and said that 40K within 2 years, all the codexes are going to be gone.
Yep.
Which is not real surprising. And they're watching Age of Sigmar closely, obviously, as to see, like they don't want to kill their cash cow, but they want to see to what degree can they continue to make adjustments to the 40K line.
Right. And I mean, realistically, it's going to be, they'd have to be 2-3 years out on that, right? Because major shifts in a game line like that take that much time for them to spin up. Everything for Age of Sigmar is already basically in production out to, spring, summer of next year easily. So, that's already well in process, in flight. They could let some of that die on the vine, but for the most part, it's the cost has been sunk, right?
Yep.
So I thought that was interesting. So 40K people, I don't know, the times they are a-changing. Bob Dylan was correct, as always. The other thing that I thought was interesting in there was when they talked about price. So he said very clearly, he said two things. One, and he was very emphatic on this point. One, our RRP will not go down. So recommended retail price, right? So their MSRP is going to stay where it stays. It's not going down.
No, it's not going to stay where it stays. It's not going down.
Right. Yes, you're right. It's not going down. It could go up. He left room for it to go up, but it's not going down. Which, by the way, duh. I mean, did anybody really think that was going to happen? I talk about a long bet. Never in a million years. That's not how the world works, boys and girls. So that's number one. But the second thing he did say is we are interested in creating value across all price points or something like that, right? I'm paraphrasing certainly.
Yep.
But that tells me that at the same time, they are interested in having both lower end and higher end products available through Games Workshop. So I think on the higher end, they've already started making those moves in little ways with like Forge World, right? When you look at things like the Warlord Titans, those massive, ridiculous things. Those are very high price pointed, but they sell like hotcakes, right? Because admittedly, they're pretty awesome. Like I don't play 40K. I wouldn't buy one of those things, but I mean, even I look at that thing and go, man, that's impressive. Look at that giant thing. Like when I was a kid, I had that Transformer base. I don't remember the name of it, but the base that transformed. I love that toy. That thing was awesome. If I could buy a fig that size, I would probably do it.
I had the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier.
Sure. Similarly, yes.
Yeah.
Another amazing toy. Yeah, big toys are fun. Come on, get into it. So, but I think at the same time, they're very aware. I think things like the Age of Sigmar box set show that they are willing to have products priced aggressively too,
Yep.
right? We just need to accept that they're going to run the spectrum as well. They should. I mean, they need lower price point stuff to get you in the door, and then moderate to higher price if and when you choose to expand. That would be called a sensible business model, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, the idea that they're going to just knock all their prices down, it's never going to happen. They can't do that. Not at the size they're at,
right,
and the quality level they produce. But at the same time, that doesn't mean they can't make things that are at a lower price point, like AOS. Because to me, I still say the box set is one of the most fantastic deals in miniatures that's come out in gaming. I think maybe the only thing to rival it is the weird starter box that releases like tomorrow or whatever, at Gen Con and similarly online. That is also a great deal. A high number of figs. I think it's like $65 or something for the buy-in. So
where is this? Oh, yeah.
Weird Malifaux starter.
Yep.
Yeah. Similarly, awesomely priced, with some great looking minis in it. So, and good on them.
You want to plug Gen Con while you mention it?
Yeah, part of the reason I'm on the road is to go to Gen Con. Yes, that's not actually why I'm here where I'm currently sitting, but yes, I will be at Gen Con. If you're at Gen Con, you can tweet at me at Warhammer Weekly, and I'll be around. We could always meet up or say hi or whatever, but I'll be wandering around. So, and Tom, are you did you decide yet? Are you going to come up one of these days? Or are you going to get off your lazy butt?
It's up in the air. Childcare fell through, so it looks like if we come up, it'll be Saturday.
All right, fair enough. So there you go. You can meet Tom too. There you go. So, but we'd love to see you. We'd love to meet you. Gen Con's always awesome. It's an amazing convention. If you're not going this year, plan to go next year. That's my best recommendation I can say. No matter what game you love, I guarantee is there. There is no other convention in North America like Gen Con. So,
do we know what the Forge World Limited Edition models are?
I do not yet. No, I haven't seen it. I'm sure it got spoiled probably, but I have not seen them.
Well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, they had that very cool Chaos Dwarf guy last year.
Don't remind me. He's $40 on eBay.
Stuff out of the financials. I mean those are very indicative things of the future to me. I think for right now, what that tells me is they're pretty happy with Age of Sigmar. They're not making any changes with it. We're gonna be riding this wave for a while, right? I've heard anecdotal evidence from a lot of store owners and stuff that it has been a great time for them sales wise. And I think the major complaint from them is the same as the major complaint from us, that they want to be able to share more about the release plan with their customers, right? Because that's the number one question they get. And, I mean, we've beat that dead horse every week, but it's still true. We all want to see a release plan, even if it was a month out, fine. We don't love to see it. And then, come on, GW. Come on. All right.
Do you want to mention the Horus Heresy?
Yep. So let's return back to the Forge World thing. So the other hook into Forge World here is we got confirmation of the Horus Heresy 30K plastic box set. So non-Forge World. It's cast in the GW plastics. And we saw the sprues. Again, that 30K Horus Heresy, whatever you want to say, has just been an absolute source of money hand over fist, right, for Forge World. And I'm sure Games Workshop is looking at that and saying, how can we expand that business out? And I've seen some mention that people think that's going to be the new third leg, right, to sort of replace The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, that kind of third leg. There has to be something else to slot in there as that license trails off, and they think 30K is going to be that thing. To somebody on the outside, I don't know. I'm sure somebody who plays 40K is going to disagree with me, but to somebody on the outside, I don't see the difference, right? Like, I'll say this: I do not expect the 30K game, if they make a new 30K game, to look much of anything like 40K, or probably even Age of Sigmar. I think it'll look like its own beast.
It's funny that you say that they all look the same, because I'm sure anybody that doesn't play Warhammer looks at 40K and 30K and the new Age of Sigmar Sigmarines, and they're like, I don't understand. It all looks the same.
Sure. Yeah, it's not a bad point. It's always different when you're an outsider looking in, I suppose, right? All right. Any other news bits?
We had a rumor come down that that Archeon the Archeon on a dragon model is in the pipeline. Yes.
Yeah.
So then we heard back during the end time stuff that everybody's like, "Oh, Archeon can't be on a dragon because he has to be on his horse to bring about the end times." And guess what? Well, he did. So now he can get a dragon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's been rumors of this Chaos Dragon kit just persisting and continually coming up over and over and over again, with everybody saying like, "Look, I've seen the kit or whatever, but I have no idea when it's going to release."
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I think that would be a stellar Chaos model to sneak out in this span of Chaos releases. What a great surprise that would be, right? Like to pop this guy out. That's something people would want to pick up, because let's face it, the old Chaos Dragon model, it's a million years old. It's out of date. We can do better, right? The recent dragons, I think of things like the High Elf Dragon, the Dark Elf Dragon, the Black Dragon, Dark Elf Dragon. Good Lord. Both of those were really fantastic. So I see I'd love to see a new, two-headed Chaos Dragon kit or whatever with a.
And they said it's massive, not just like big. It's a massive dragon kit.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a Nagash size kit. Something along that level. A Glotkin Nagash, a big boy kit. You strap on your big boy pants. It's time to go to work, right? Something that's significant. So,
and narratively, it would make sense if Archeon's been waiting for Sigmar to bust open the gates. It would make sense if Archeon has rallied his forces and got his big boy dragon and is waiting for those gates to open so he can come crashing in.
Yeah, he put on his big boy pants, right? He's tired of screwing around, and now it's time to wear his big boy pants.
And so he can come in and be like, "You didn't accept me before. Now I got a dragon. You got to accept me now, Sigmar."
Yeah. Still trying to turn him into a good guy. I'm hoping that still happens. It's just delayed. Archeon's always on the edge of becoming a hero. I'm telling you. I don't care. This is ultimately a long story of redemption. It's just going to take a little longer than I thought. It's just like Darth Vader. It takes until the end of the third act. We'll get there. All right. So I think that pretty much covers most of our news and rumors. So let's do a quick hobby time, Tom. What are you working on?
Well, I got my Nagash basically done. And so I have returned to a project that I have long put off. I have a bunch of unfinished Phoenix Guard. So so I'm working on Phoenix Guard and knocked out an Anointed of Asuran, and now I'm kind of jumping in between some of the heroes for them. I have a wizard that I painted in a similar kind of color scheme that I'm doing the Phoenix Guard, and it'll be good. It'll be good. Looking forward to getting this done. And I have enough Phoenix Guard. I have like 30 Phoenix Guard that I should be able to field like a full on like Phoenix Guard full on painted high elf themed army. So
sure. Well, certainly in the Age of Sigmar, that's entirely possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw, everybody. So quick Age of Sigmar funny thing. You mentioned Phoenix Guard. I was looking on Twitter earlier, and somebody showed a group of. So everybody knows that the Iron Guts are incredibly destructive, right? Iron Guts, the ogres, Iron Guts are just backbreakers in Age of Sigmar. They're like 3 damage with high rend troops. And there was somebody had shared an image of a line of Phoenix Guard that a big block of Iron Guts plowed into and just bounced thanks to their ridiculous cheater 4-up ward save. This still exists. So I thought that was funny. Even Sigmar, Phoenix Guard can still bounce off and just tar pit up anything.
Yeah, and it only gets worse when you have an Anointed of Asuran running around. It's making all of them immune to battle shock. I
believe Caradrin was there, yes. Because why not?
He does that too. Why not?
Sure, why not? Same 0 points as everybody else. So what I was working on was I posted up my Green Lantern / Green Knight Bretonian conversion from the Lord Castellans or whatever, along with Rex, the Wonder Griff. I was very happy with how that guy came out. I put a cloak on a dog. Why not? Just totally. He didn't even have a cloak. The legitimate Rex the Wonder Dog, Green Lantern's dog, didn't even have a cloak. I don't care. Put a cloak on him. Shut up. Don't judge me. I'm putting cloaks on. If they come out with a unit of those dogs, I'm doing 5 more of them. I'm there day one. Make the unit. I'll buy them all the dogs, all the dog birds, and I'll put cloaks on every one of them.
Now, are you going to run through the Justice League?
Sure, totally. Yes, they'll be a Crypto and an Ace, the Bat Hound, and it'll be the Justice League of bird dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm down.
That seems in flavor for the world. I don't care. Whatever. It's what makes me laugh. You're the one GW that made bird dogs. I don't feel the need to model seriously when you're handing me bird dogs. They're beautiful models. I'm gonna do whatever I want with them. Take that. That's how I feel about that. All right. So speaking of that, that transitions nicely into our topic of the week, or into our feature, whatever, for this segment. Sorry, I slept not much last night. So anyways, this week we wanted to talk about the Proud Nail. So we're going to go back and do our Proud Nail. What's a Proud Nail? It's that little thing that bothers you when you're playing. That thing in the rules that maybe doesn't work quite as well as it should. Maybe not game-breaking, but game-annoying. That's the Proud Nail. And tonight we're going to dig right in and we're going to tackle some Proud Nails in the Age of Sigmar. And there are a few. Even in 4 pages or 200 pages, I don't care. 8th edition certainly had many, and we spent many a night talking about them. But tonight we're going to talk about Age of Sigmar's Proud Nails. So, Tom, as my co-host, it now falls to you to go first. What is your first Proud Nail you'd like to talk about, that we'd like to discuss?
Well, I spent 2 hours bitching about this Proud Nail today on Mitch's ONG. I did a review with Mitch today, by the way. Check out MC1 Gamer's review of the ONG book. And I think that this is just bad design from my perspective. And here's my complaint. We have and the ONG is a perfect example of this. So you have a book that's technically like an army codex, but what they've done with the O's and G's is, rather than encouraging them to build like a large like host together, like Orcs and Goblins used to run together, everything within the actual design of the army incentivizes ghettoization of like groupings of troops. And so here's what I mean by that. Almost all of your heroes with their command abilities benefit their race. So for example, the Orc War Boss benefits orcs. So when he triggers command ability, it only bonuses orcs. The casters, when they have buffing spells that are not offensive, those buffing spells only buff like for example the Knight Goblin Shaman, no, not his, one of them, the Sneaky Stabbing Goblin Shaman only bonuses Git Mob monsters, which are common goblins. So Night Goblins and Orcs, obviously, and Force Goblins don't qualify for that spell, to receive that spell. And so it's just what it incentivizes is you to play with 4 to 7 units, depending on which, or 3 to 7 units, or whatever, 8 units, depending on which of the different factions within Orcs and Goblins you play, and only feel that stuff. And there are some units that literally like share no keywords other than destruction with the entire. So like the Trolls and the Giant don't share any other keywords with the book that it's actually in. So like there's no difference if I like between fielding that stuff and fielding ogres, which also have the destruction keyword. Like, so they feel out of place outside of them actually being in the codex. And so it's a frustration that, like, I think things have been lost in the translation with some of the books. Like animosity completely absent from this incarnation of Orcs and Goblins. I'm not complaining, but it's completely absent. Wog stuff only shows up basically on a couple of the orcs. So like there's no, like, goblins don't get to participate in wogs anymore unless they like are tag-alongs for whatever the orcs are doing. So I don't know. I just as I dig deeper into some of these things, it feels like something's off. Either something's been missing, something's been lost in the translation, or they're encouraging certain types of play that is just like thematically it's neat. Don't get me wrong. I love the idea of just throwing all of my Arachnaroks and Force Goblins on the table of Spider Riders and being an awesome, very synergistic army. Love that. The problem is that if I want to throw in a knight, like I want to throw in a Goblin Shaman, I only get his 2 base spells. I actually don't get his special spell. Like he doesn't bring anything but like special. And a lot of those casters and Orcs and Goblins at least benefit if there's 20 other of that same type of character nearby. So like you have to have like 20 Git Mob for the Goblin Shaman caster to get the bonus of +1 to his spell casting. And so like if I threw a Goblin Shaman in, not only would I not get his spell, I wouldn't get any of the other like benefits that come with him. So all of that to say, it seems like it's just bad design. I
disagree completely. That's okay. We've talked about this, and I think you're completely off your rocker. It's perfect design. It encourages themes, and yes, it does encourage ghettoization. But that's okay. It maybe should be a slightly more lanced up. Like there should be a couple that can be weaker but broader applications. Which fine. I don't know that that's not going to happen in whatever comes next. But to me, this just smacks like Magic design. Like it is what it is. Some things are +1/+1 to all knights. Well, don't use that guy if you're not running knights. And it's not like you can't. That's only for the inspiring guys, the general. The other dudes are still fine on their own. They work. They can't get whatever benefit top guys passing out. That doesn't make them not part of the deck.
Or any of the other passive buffs that are associated with the heroes and stuff like that. And so like I compare this with like Dark Elves or High Elves, which benefit like anybody with the Highborn keyword or anybody with the Exile keyword, which is basically the entire army. And so you have a lot more flexible of builds within the army. And you just don't have that.
Elves first, which is exactly what I said before. Great, elves are cheaters again. Because most other armies have this same thing going on. Well, you're comparing clearly somebody who just went all that way and saying it's this thing. No, the elves are the exception. You're pointing at the wrong exception. And if you have to have 100% synergy, then don't play that army.
Sure.
That's my simple answer.
This is what I would say. It makes as much sense for me to throw trolls into an army as Iron Guts.
Okay. Like if that's what you feel, then that's fine. Because I would say what makes it make more sense is that trolls are in the Orc and Goblin book and have a place in that army.
That seems circumstantial at this point, is what I would say. They share the destruction keyword. That's accidental at best.
Hey, if that's what you think, that's what you think. That's what I'm saying. To me, no issue. But anyways, this isn't the Orcs and Goblins talk of Proud Nails. Got it. Check. All right, my Proud Nail. Mine's easy, and I don't think this one's controversial. Here's the most obvious one. I can't believe you didn't lead with this one. Talk about burying the lead, Tom. Measuring from the model. That doesn't work. That's the most obvious one to me. It's crazy that it was ever proposed. I don't get it. I have no idea why it was done. It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
It should seem clear why they did it. They did it because of bases. Because they wanted to allow square bases.
Again, you can allow square bases. I don't care. Sure, no problem. Fine. Allow square bases. Then you measure from the base as long as it's on the base it came with.
Right. Well, the problem is that mechanically, then some bases are better than other bases.
Oh, who cares? Use the one it came with. I'm getting slightly more distance, but the enemy has slightly more distance or less distance or whatever to me. It's going to be both. The measurement goes both ways. If we both have 2-inch weapons and my base gets within 2 inches of yours, you're within 2 inches of me.
Right, but you can fit for a unit, large unit, you can fit more models within attack range.
Again, willing to accept that. I am willing to accept all of that for the cleanliness of measuring from the base.
Okay.
That's what I'll say. Like, nobody has to rebase. Whatever. It's not that big a deal. When I played Mordheim, I played with a mix of circles and squares. Fine. Life went on. Like, yeah. Sometimes more could pile in, sometimes less. Okay? Neat. Cool story, bro. Like, whatever. Who cares? But the measuring from the model, that is straight out. That is this. The measuring from the base might have some minor issues and maybe still counts as a proud nail, but the measuring from the model, that's like a bent nail. There's like a tip of that sticking into the board. That's going to slice your arm open. All right, what's your next proud nail, Tom? Hit me.
So I just wrapped a bunch of proud nails all into one thing there.
Army construction, maybe?
I would say the comp system. Okay. All the comp systems being proposed.
All right.
Okay.
It's not really the fault of the game. It doesn't have those, but okay.
Certainly. And I think that like and I lump sudden death into this as well. Okay. I like sudden death. But for some armies, it's just a kick in the teeth. Sure. And so, for example, to return back to O's and G's, but this applies to Skaven or whoever else, like there are some armies that are built to have more dudes.
Sure.
Okay. And the effectiveness of a unit is dependent upon them having more dudes. Like that's just a thing. You know, the defensive capabilities of a bunch of goblins are functional. Like you need to have dudes nearby to sacrifice, you know, for their sneakiness. And so it's built around having dudes around you to do these things. And the problem is that you just can't do that. Like if you're worrying about laying down models for sudden death and avoiding sudden death, suddenly like certain armies perform a lot better in that world than other armies. And so it's painful for me to like look at a O's and G's list and start to put stuff together, or O's and G's type of thing, because if on the base game, like without any comp system, some things are good, some things are bad. As soon as you throw in a comp system, then like it completely jiggers the entire mechanics of all that stuff. And so I just haven't found a happy medium. So an example of this is the Orc Bully from Orcs and Goblins. This used to be an upgrade for War Machines. It's now a hero that you lay on the table. Okay? But he's just a buffing hero, and he only works for War Machines. So he's competing, if you're playing in a comp that only has like 2 heroes, he's now competing with like good generals.
Your caster, your heroes that are actually doing stuff.
Yes,
exactly. Guys essentially just standing around doing some very minor things to your war machine.
Yeah, and so like the comp system really pulls like O's and G's are the ones that I've noticed it both ways. So if you're running the sudden death, you're running into one set of problems with O's and G's. If you're playing in any of the comp systems, it skews your stuff a different way. And so it's frustrating is what I would say.
Yeah, I get it. Certainly, I understand that. The sudden death is such a cool idea, and I have no issue with it in principle. The problem is, yes, I think you're right that it unnecessarily punishes certain armies, especially when they play the way you might want to play them. So me being a servant of the Horned Rat, I'm certainly empathetic to this position. The min unit size on Skaven Slaves is 20, right? You could literally set down that unit and put yourself into sudden death against some armies.
Ogre Kingdoms.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Or you know, Walk can still run with very few. Even the new Sigmarines could be out there with very few, right? So, you know, I mean, it's the kind of thing where like I got to agree with you. So I'll point at sudden death. Let me say this: there's plenty of ways to play this game that I don't. Its army composition is actually rather easy in my estimation. I think the best way I've seen so far is you just limit the war scrolls, and each war scroll buys you the min amount in the unit, right? Yeah. Because most of them tend to be pretty balanced in that way. For one war scroll, I get 20 slaves, but I get 3 gutter runners or whatever. You can pick your poison. It's not perfect, And then maybe you say like some number of your war scrolls can't be hero, you know, like no more than half your war scrolls can be heroes or monsters, and a hero monster takes 2. I don't care. That's about as complex as I think you need to get. I've been able to have several good games just talking to my opponents. We've had fair games. And in neither time did we say, let's use sudden death, right? I think the key is if you're going to bring in any kind of comp system like that, that you then get rid of sudden death, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not serving a purpose anymore.
Right.
So yeah. And all that's to say, like, I don't want to dispatch the idea of pool choices. Like, I think the way I really prefer it is you have a selection of like 15 war scrolls you can place up to 10, you know, something like that. So you have a sideboard there. That, and then you do the deployment method of Age of Sigmar. I think that's super awesome. I love the deployment mini game, and when you're playing in a situation like that, I think that makes for a very exciting tournament sort of situation, especially when you then figure in that you're staring down a scenario, right? So you're trying to lay your unit to not only counter whatever they just put down, but also succeed in the scenario. That is an intense tactical choice.
Yep.
Right? You really need to know what your units are capable of. And I super like that. You got to think very much ahead. What's going to counter that? What else do I have if I don't counter that now, but I need to get, you know, to hold this objective, so I'll place this. I need to come back and counter this thing he just placed with a later unit I've got in the box still. That's great. That's great. So I'm very excited about that. I just think that all the pieces aren't quite fitting right now when you look at things like sudden death. All right. What else have we got as far as proud nails go?
Is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn. Sure.
Okay. Fitting all of, like, in order to get the cover bonus for terrain, fitting all of your models onto that piece of terrain.
Yeah.
Because let me just tell you, if you own a Skullvein Manse, unless you're laying out 3 gutter runners, you're not getting all of your models on that terrain piece, especially within 1 inch of each other.
Yeah, this is I think most egregious when you look at the Ophidian Archway. It has a special rule that says if your troops are on one side and the enemy's troops are on another, you can claim cover. Well, and get the +1 to armor save. Yeah, I would hope that's how it works. Now, I get why they included that, because technically that's not how it works, right? Like, if you're standing on one side of a wall and the enemy can see you on the other, and they're standing on the other side of the wall, you get nothing from that. There's no actual benefit. But of course, that's nonsensical. So I feel like the rules, like, I don't get that. That's definitely a proud nail. And that's another thing that we absolutely changed when I played. I said, look, as it's written, you know, within our group, I said, as it's written, if you're standing on this side of the wall, if I'm on this side of the wall and you're on that side, you get nothing. Are you okay with us saying if you occupy the wall, i.e. you're adjacent to it? And they were, and everybody was like, yeah, let's do that, because that makes sense. And that was the end of the discussion. It wasn't complicated. Yeah. It's just stupid we had to have that discussion. Like, that's definitely a proud nail, right? But I get it. They were trying to make it generic. Fine. Because if you say on the other side of the terrain, well, how close? You know, do you have to be touching it? What if I'm an inch off the wall? Do I still get cover? Like, I get it. I get the cleanness of the choice. Mm-hmm. It's just, at the same time, come on. Right? I mean, it's a bit silly. So, just a quick break here for some comments.
Yep.
All right, so let's see. Hooves of Doom said slaughter priests are part of the Bloodhound Warhorde. I like it. ZMac says hello. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Tabletop Minis said he thought the financials looked pretty good, but he's not sure about the statement that our customers call us Warhammer, though. No one I've ever met says I'm off to the Warhammer shop. I always Games Workshop. Yeah, I got to agree with that. It's a weird, like, I get the branding choice. They're known for the Warhammer game, but what if you ever want to make something that's not called Warhammer, right? Like,
clearly they're not planning on doing that.
A product not called Warhammer, they're screwed. Then they have a misalignment again. So yeah, it's weird.
Warhammer, Lord of the Rings edition.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Merrick Wolf is obviously stoked for the Justice League Age of Sigmar. Merrick made an awesome Batman. Did you see his Batman on Gargoyle? Yes, it was pretty great. And Paul says I'm looking very hot tonight. Yes, Paul. Don't worry, always, buddy. That's right. We brought the sexy back tonight. That's what we're doing. Such was my desire to get this show out on time. I ran in here and did not even have time to change. All right. So other proud nails in the system. Here's one. Cumulative infinite stacking of things. And the results in fact that ones don't automatically fail. Right? So if you've got 3 wizards and they all have Mystic Shield, theoretically they can all layer them on the same unit, put that unit at a 1-up armor. And assuming it's being attacked by a unit that has 0 rend, it cannot die. Right? Like it takes 0 wounds. You made that unit bulletproof to non-rending units. I have a problem with that. I don't think that's game breaking because here's the thing: we're all spoiled by 8th edition, living in this world of everything can be wounded, right? But I played since 4th, and when things went to toughness 7, 8, 9, 10, which that all existed, strength 3 couldn't even wound them anymore, right? So, Bloodthirsters at a point in time were tough enough that strength 3 troops couldn't even kill them, couldn't even wound them. So when they landed in your army, not only could they fly high and be unshootable by your cannons, they could come down and land and start carving a swath of destruction through your troops. And those troops were attacking basically a stone wall with their fists. They couldn't even damage them. And this was the world for a long time. Steam tanks used to look like this. There were many, many troops in the game that could not damage steam tanks at all. Just couldn't. You could bang on the side of it. Nothing happened. So I don't, and yet the game still played. As far as I seem to remember, lots of people playing Warhammer in those editions. So it must not have been game breaking, right? Somehow we were able to all get by. But it was certainly annoying. Now you can stop the spells and crap like that, but I think to me it's a proud nail. It makes the game lesser for it. Why don't we just have the ones always fail rule? So you can allow the stacking forever, but why not have the ones always fail rule? It seems like one of these two things needs to be in place, right? It's both of them together that form this hooky nail that just grabs your sleeve and just bothers you.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to my auto hitting elves. Just saying, that's going to happen.
Andrew says that I've heard that point from a lot of other people about the wall not providing cover. It's all covered in the rules for scenery. It's a separate download. You get cover if you are within 3 inches of something, and then it got cut off. So I can't see the rest of your comment, Andrew. But I'll take a look at that. You should. So you're saying that like all scenery has a thing that says if you're within 3 inches of it, you get covered? That's interesting. And if that's the case, I apologize. I missed that too. Then why did you put that in the normal rules? GW, come on now. But that's good to know. So I want to know more about that, Andrew. But that's awesome. If that's the case, great. Then I certainly take it back, and I'm wrong. And I have missed that. Not for lack of trying to find it. I just didn't see it. So I do apologize if that's incorrect. But certainly the ones thing is actually clarified in the hot tip that bonuses are cumulative. Like in the hot tips in the Age of Sigmar book, it specifically says,
hey, stack the stuff.
Hey, everything stacks. Have a good time. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about giant rats and how easy it is to get those up to hitting on ones with their 3 attacks. So you could theoretically have 90 automatically hitting attacks. That's scary. Turns into 15 wounds, assuming that you're attacking a unit with a 4-up armor.
Yeah, you're just not trying hard enough. That's the answer right there, because you need to just throw some monsters in that are bonusing the wounds, so they're auto-wounding too.
Oh, sure, why not? I was just going for the easy thing. 30 giant rats plus a Packmaster, go. And that's just the standard giant rat horde running around auto-hitting with 90 attacks. Lunacy. But good times. It'd be really hard to probably pile in and get all 30 of those guys attacking. They do only have a 1-inch little... They have little tiny bites. They have little tiny mouths. It's only 1-inch range. Little nibblins. They'll nibble you. Little nibbles. All right, what else you got? You got any other proud nails?
That we have to have this conversation. I know that sounds ridiculous, but come on, G-Dubs. Like, you could have been the one. This could have been it.
This could have been the one perfect edition since it's only 4 pages.
Yes. Yeah. It just seems like a couple of small tweaks would have went a long way to making a superbly superior game.
Sure. I have one more. If you don't have any more,
no, go ahead.
My one more, and my one more is summoning and the clarity around it. So, for example, I don't think that the rules around summoning for like what your undead units grant your caster are in any way unclear. If that unit is not present, your Death Wizard does not have it. I don't even understand the argument to the contrary. It's on the unit's war scroll, not the Death Wizard's. Where does this discussion begin? I don't even know. Okay, so this is that I do not fault GW for. This is the type of thing that drives me insane as a game designer. When like I read that and I'm like, that is 100% clear, and I let other people read it and they're like, yeah, it's 100% clear. But then one person reads it and they're like, oh, that's totally the other way around, and I'm like, where did you even get that? You pulled that out of nowhere.
No other abilities function when they're not deployed on the table. Like,
right. Yeah, I mean, this one's just obvious. And I understand there are some distinctions. Like, that's fine. I'm not saying all summoning is like that. I'm saying specifically the summoning that works in that way where the unit grants the caster the summon.
Right. Lizardmen and Undead are both functioning that way.
Yeah, and I know there are some distinctions. And fine, those other things where it's happening on the caster's war scroll and it's saying the caster can do this thing, yeah, cool, rock and roll. That's clear as a bell. That's how that works, right? So Chaos has some of this going on.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, 100%. Like, classically, you summon demons. So you summon demons. So that's not my thing. My thing with summoning is I hate the clarity around, or I hate the way it works. And the fact that seemingly your summons get to act completely normally, right? And so, like, if they could summon, you can just chain summon. And then this cascades into the confusion around the way that gets calced out toward the victory at the end, right? I don't think that all summons count toward casualties, or like literally the moment they show up. If they die, they're certainly a casualty. They don't count towards your total count. But how many do I have to kill? If you put 30 models on the table, right?
And if you have 10, okay, sorry, go ahead.
You put 30 models on the table, Tom. Okay. Yep. You summon 30 more.
Yep.
All right. And let's just assume the obvious reading of this, that when those summons die, they count toward casualties, but they do not count towards your total models for victory, right?
Yep.
So in other words, I now have 60 models I could kill to get at your 30 models I need to kill, right? Yep. When I kill that 30 and I have achieved 100% of your models, did I just achieve a major victory? Or do I have to literally wipe out everything you have on the table?
Which will never happen.
Right, especially if you keep at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by just getting that magic number of 30, your original number, did I just get to a major victory? Or whatever, right? Or did I get to 100%? Here's the thing. Even if it comes to minor victory, let's say I kill 31, right? So I've killed 103% of your models. Unless you table me, theoretically, I win the game. Right? Because when we're comparing percentages, if I'm not a summoner or calling in reserves, the most you can get out of me now is 100%.
Yep.
Right? And if you table me, fine, you major victoried me. If we assume the question to the last answer is true. But if I have even one model left, I win the game. Even if you have 80 left.
Which, like, the question is, like, how do you call when the game is over? Which is a related question to this. Because it's not 6 turns anymore, obviously. And so does that mean that, like, what if one person wants to quit before the other one wants to?
Yeah, I mean, then you just call the game. I think that one's fine and easy. I think the hard 6-turn limit doesn't matter. All the scenarios spell out ends, like the game runs X turns or whatever. So I think that's just, I think what they're saying is, look, if you're just playing the general punch 'em up, then it's until you punch the other guy dead or one of you goes, you know what, you got it, homie, we're good. Which I think that's how a lot of games ended anyways. A lot of my friendly games where we're just playing punch 'em ups didn't really go 6 turns, right? They went like 4 or 5, and I was like, yeah, we're good. You know, one of us is being ground into the dirt at this point, and it's just an exercise in pain. Did we really need to continue?
Sure. I mean, what I would say is this. I think just with the sentence, and you alluded to this, that as soon as you kill like their full percentage of troops, summoned or otherwise, that counts as a major victory and the game ends. Like, that would go so far to this whole summoning loop thing. You know, if somebody laid down 30 troops, they summon 30 more, and I kill 30 troops, the game ends because I've killed 100% of your troops.
Sure, and at the same time, that's weird, right? Because it's like, but I've still got a lot of army on the table. So I get it. It's all problematic. Again, as with everything, I understand scenarios are a major answer for this. And they are. Because scenarios, look, this is just like, in many ways, oh, good. Andrew clarified. It's just 3 inches for walls and fences. Page 8 of the scenery book. Very cool. Thank you, Andrew. That is very much appreciated. That is exactly what I'm looking for. So Andrew was also commenting, you only have to wipe out his starting force. Reserves, summons don't count in calculating for victory conditions, sudden death, or otherwise. Well, in the rules, it specifically says your casualties from summons count toward like the minor victory portion. I have no doubt about that. That's, I think, clear as a bell. But either way, the whole thing has some ambiguity around it, and I feel that lifts it up to the proud nail thing. There's a lot of discussion happening about it, and moreover, I would have loved to see a summoning sickness. You know, like Magic solved this problem in 1995 when they realized that things that were, you know, that the turn you cast something, it shouldn't go attacking, as you could originally when the game was launched. Like when the game first came out in its very early stages, when you summon a creature, it just went immediately. Just ran across the table, right? Summoning sickness was a later invention. It's a shame we didn't learn our lesson from 20 years ago. So, summoning sickness, that's a thing. Should be a thing. That would prevent chains of Zinchi-Zinchathons. All right. Tommy, any other proud nails you want to cover?
Not that I can think of. I'm sure that you give me another week or two. I'm sure I'll discover something else that's getting in my crawl.
There you go. Absolutely. I plan to play a lot more games. I want to close out, like we're getting to the end where we're getting to our hour. So, but I want to close out with this, or this is one I want to make this point at least. I have had a lot of fun playing this game. It is not a perfect game. I've never played the perfect game. I don't even know what that looks like. I've written many games. None of them were perfect. Not even close. Tom is a developer for me. He will attest to you how far off the mark on perfect I get. That word isn't even wandering into the zip code of the games that I've written, especially not when they first get written. But this game is really good. And there are so many elements of this game that I really like. I love the tactics. Little things I thought I would hate. Alternating turns, right, of who gets to go first. It's so good because you are operating under such a condition of uncertainty. And I found it to be exhilarating because I had to think not just one of my opponent's moves, but 2 of my opponent's moves ahead, right? It made it so much more challenging. The deployment piece, the troops, and little things I thought were really going to bother me didn't, like pile in. I was like, yeah, it doesn't, like, it was super easy. Like piling in was fine. Even when I had, you know, a block of like 25 dudes, it really wasn't bad. So I will say a lot of things I thought were going to bother me have turned out fine. I've been able to come to agreement on building armies fine. Little things like piling in and moving figs didn't bother me. I set them down on movement trays and then break them off as I need to. And things that I thought I would hate, I've actually come to love. So I think that what I would say is definitely, play the game and play the scenarios. And those scenarios that are in the Age of Sigmar book, if you can lay your hands on them, they're great. And, give them a shot. I think they're really, really worth playing, and they make the game really good. It reminds me of the Mordheim distinction. Mordheim without a scenario is pretty bad. It's really not fun because it ends up being pretty much like either a cagey shootout where you just stand at a distance and throw rocks at each other, or it ends up being one guy chasing another guy around the board pointlessly, right? Or it ends up being murder in the middle. Mordheim with scenarios is maybe one of the greatest war games ever made. It's just that easy, right? And I think that a lot of the same factors are at play here in the Age of Sigmar. So use them scenarios, folks. You can do it. Tom, what are any final thoughts for you?
Yeah, I would just say that I think that design is just so tight on the system. Like, when I look at how much they did and just how good it is, my frustration is that there's just a couple things that they could have done better. And those couple things are what's so painful about this system, because it is so good and it is so tight that they could have just spent a little bit more time, I think, in development. And I think they could have knocked this out of the park.
I think that's fair. All right. Well, as always, we want to know what your proud nails are. So make sure you leave them below, and we will comment and talk about it. We look forward to continuing the discussion. But as for that brings us to the end of our time. And so, as usual, I will say, see you next Wednesday.